where did your passion initially for business leadership and wanting to really, be at the forefront of technology and innovation begin? Like, was this something you had when you were young? How did this start?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. I think it probably starts with my old man, with my dad. So I was lucky enough to have the parents that I had. I think that's a lot of people, those of us that can say that, we are super lucky and super blessed. So my old man has an interesting life. His experiences have been great. He did a lot of work with government, military, stuff like that. And then when he went into the private sector, he really was an innovator. He's always been one of the early people in technology. He was back in the Vietnam era. He got some training from the Army in computers in the early days when the computers were the size of rooms, and those computers had less processing power than our cell phones did. So he was very early there, and like I said, he spent the first part of his career doing different agencies and things with the government. But then he went to the private sector. He was able to take some of that technology, which was a very new word back then, and apply it to various problems that society has. So he was one of the early people. This is going to seem crazy to you, but my father, a company he and the other partners had, invented electronic toll collection. So Easy Pass, as you know, or in Florida, the Florida Pass, that technology, his company, Datacom, which was later bought by Lockheed, was the pioneer for that. So I remember thinking about innovative technology and thinking about changing things through innovation. Imagine solving the problem of having to throw change into a toll booth. Now, you're too young to remember that. I remember when we'd be driving. I grew up in the great state of New Jersey. I'm a Florida guy now, but I grew up in New Jersey. And I remember going down to the shore, and a 20-mile ride would take an hour and 30 minutes because everyone was funneled into a 3-lane road to pay for a toll. Now you scoot through them at 60, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, depending on how crazy you drive. I remember the 10-year journey of getting that done, that type of thing. And I saw my father and his partners like struggling with it, and eventually got it. And then after that, I got to see him as one of the principals in the company that invented navigation for vehicles. So all the maps that you use when you drive and the route guidance, that was all them. So I was very grateful that my father made his money after I was an adult. So I didn't grow up as a spoiled rich kid, but I got to see innovation and business just from such a different lens. And it was super neat to see it. So I think that passion came from watching my old man struggle and eventually solve big problems with technology. And the definition of technology changes over time. And I think social media and things, those were only a fantasy back in the day. But it's just the power that looking at a problem and thinking outside the box as to how to solve it, the impact that can have. And then, of course, if you solve big problems, you can make big money. And money's nice. It's always better to have money than not have money. But solving big problems and really helping people by doing it, it's kick-ass and it's super neat and cool. And that's kind of where I originally started getting into it. And then that's kind of what drove it. I think my like personal journey, I think the second part of it, of where it comes from, innovation comes from knowing that things are possible. Again, I was lucky to see it. When I was coming into university, I played sports in university, but most of the people in university, they taught us, go work in a big company, go become a management consultant or a Wall Street guy or I don't know, whatever the hell you want to do. And it wasn't cool when I was probably your age, Ben, even though I'm only 24. No, but it wasn't cool when I was younger to be an entrepreneur. It just freaking wasn't. And it's a sin. It was if you weren't working at Goldman or you weren't working at Deloitte, Procter & Gamble, you're a freaking loser. GE back in the day. And as they say, necessity is always the source of a lot of good innovation. Well, for me, that necessity was I couldn't get hired by those fancy companies. I always say the Goldmans of the world, I think I had one interview. So, when I was in college, I was lucky enough that I saw the idea of create and innovate. I got into computers early, and I started my first company in college because I had to, not because I wanted to. And that's how I got started in the industry. And, I also was very lucky, as I said in the beginning, that I saw from my dad that you can use technology to do things. So when I graduated college, I had my own company, and I was kind of the red-haired stepchild of all my friends. I was the loser, the one that didn't have the fancy title of an investment bank or a management consulting company, the one that was struggling to get one or two customers from this startup that I had. 2024, I would have been the cool kid at the cool parties, but back then I wasn't. But that's how I got started.
So how did you take your first company from, you're building this in school to actually scaling it much further than that? You had a lot of success with it, multi-millions in sales from that. How did you go to that point?
Yeah, my very first company, I sold it while I was a senior in college. I got incredibly lucky. Developed a little piece of technology, and I sold it to a consulting company. And that consulting company then hired me on. So that's how I was able to get employment, or if you will. And I ran this little group, and that company eventually got sold, and then I went off and started other companies. But it was pure luck. Literally, it was pure luck. I think a lot of people, the luck wasn't in creating the technology. The luck was that I was introduced to someone who approached me and said, "Well, I'll buy it from you." Huh. And selling a company for $50,000 when you're a senior in college is a great thing. It's all the money in the world when you're in university. But that was how it got started, and I think luck was a big part of it. But let's keep going.
Why did you want to be involved in this company?
Yeah, so interesting story. So earlier in my life, I had been a co-founder, an early person, a company called Identify Software. A guy named Yochi Sloan, my mentor. Two mentors in my life, my dad and this guy Yochi Sloan. He's an Israeli dude. He's a great guy. Brilliant man. He was the founder of Identify Software. And he brought me on board very early. And we built the company together. It was the first APM company that existed. And we had we sold it for $150 million to BMC in 2006. So in 2001 were the early days at Identify Software. And I was living in Miami. Miami wasn't the town it is today. It was still a great city. There was not a lot of technology in Miami. There was probably a couple of industries, hotels, cruise lines. We had about 8 employees in Miami at a software company. The company had about 300 employees as we got big, maybe 400. So we were considered a big technology company in Miami. I went to a networking event. This might have been 2002, 2003. And I met one of the people from this little company called Kaseya. And I was we were the big company talking about scaling technology. We were doing maybe 40 or 50 million in sales. And Kaseya at the time was maybe doing $1 million in sales, if that. And then maybe 15, 20 years later, probably 15 years later, Kaseya had sold to Insight Partners. Insight Partners is one of, if not the best, private equity firm that focuses on internet and software and technology. And a guy named Mike Triplett, who's one of the managing partners at Insight, I met with him, and we said, we have this asset called Kaseya. We'd love for you to come take a look at it and maybe figure out what we can do with it together. And I said, Kaseya. I'm like, that's kind of a unique word. I'm like, are they based in Miami by any chance? And he said, yeah. And I remember the story like it was yesterday. So after that meeting I had 15, 18 years ago, the networking meeting, where I met the guys that ran Kaseya at the time. This Kaseya, again, was around $1 million. I was a couple days later, I was living in Miami Beach at the time, and I was going for a run on the equivalent of a boardwalk. And some dude's running by me, and he has a shirt on, and it says, I bleed Kaseya blue. And I saw it, and Kaseya is such a unique word. So I stopped him, I stopped this guy jogging on the beach in Miami Beach. And I'm like, hey, man, I think I know the company you work for. Kaseya. He goes, no, I'm a customer. And that was so powerful. Like this, I remember like it was yesterday. So I asked Mike Triplett from Insight, I'm like, is that the same Kaseya in Miami? He goes, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I remembered a little bit about it. And then we started the journey together. And it's been just a fantastic, almost 10 years now. Fantastic 10 years of we've grown the business. We're approaching $2 billion of ARR. We're 5,000 plus employees. And it's been just a great run.
Wow, it's an incredible story. So you just saw the passion the customers had, and you're like,
yeah,
how can I not be involved?
So I remember that from 15 years ago or 12 years ago, whatever it was. Like it was yesterday. It was super, super.
So what does it take, Fred, to develop new IT and like security management solutions? Like you guys are leading in various categories, but how do you go about creating something innovative and different that's disruptive?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I think this goes beyond just Kaseya. I can tell you how we try to do it. And hopefully we do it reasonably well, and I'm sure there's lots of mistakes we do, and there's always more than one way to do something. But our approach is very, very specific. We say we are a customer-centric organization. That doesn't mean the customer's always right. We call our customers partners in our industry, in our business. But what it means is everything that we do as a company, I mean everything, from how we do PR to how we interview people to how we do accounting, everything has to be done with the lens of am I doing something that will make my customer's life better? And it may seem like a stretch. If you're an HR person, how can you think about the work you do as an HR person impacting a customer directly? There's lots of ways. How we interview people, are we hiring the right kinds of people? How we do to retain the right people, there's so many ways. So when we think about building and innovating products, it's all about what will make the customer's life better. I mentioned earlier, a lesson from my father. That was find a problem. Find a big problem. Fix it. If you find a big problem and you fix it, you solve it in a unique way, you're innovating and you're going to create a ton of value, of which, of course, you'll be rewarded for one way or the other. So the way we approach it is we really look at what our partners or our customers, what are they experiencing? What's hard for them? Where are they struggling? And then we solve it. We attempt to solve it. Hopefully we solve it more often than we don't. And it's not a big bang theory. A lot of people have this idea, you're technology companies, you come up with this cool, unique idea and you solve everything at once. That's not innovation. Innovation happens every single damn day. You make things 1-2% better and you don't stop doing it. And it starts with understanding what the problem is and how do we solve it. Very pragmatic. I'll give you a great example. One of the challenges that our customers have is they can't afford to put the complete cybersecurity protection in their environment. It's too expensive. So that means they have to be, the phrase is naked or the phrase is exposed in some areas because they can't afford to do it. That's a big problem. Another problem they have is they need 9-10 different types of cybersecurity software, but they can't manage 10 things. It's too much. 10 different interfaces, 10 things that don't talk together. It's just too much. Those are two huge problems our customers face. How do we solve it? We said, we're going to put all 10 things into one place with the same interface. And we're going to make it work as one. And we're going to charge 1/3 of what the competitors of all 10 things would charge so you can afford to use all of it. Now, that was the idea. Implementing that idea took a ton of engineering and very creative thinking and problem solving to do it, but it just started with the simple idea of I'm going to solve a freaking problem. And if we solve that problem, there's hundreds of thousands of organizations out there that experience that problem. And now we solve it. And only we solve it. And, we get rewarded for it because they use our technology. They pay us their hard-earned money and we deliver something for them that they wouldn't have otherwise have gotten. So it's just a very pragmatic approach. But I think a lot of people in technology, especially, when they think about products and they think about the solutions they want to do, they look at it from their own perspective instead of saying, let me solve the problem. It's not about building the coolest product. It's about building the right solution, the right product that solves the problem for that customer, and never relenting it. And that's the way that we approach it at Kaseya. Sometimes we do it right, sometimes we do it wrong, but I think we do it right more often than we do it.
Mm-hmm. So, what you said, Fred, makes a lot of sense in terms of like how to approach a new development, right? Why do you want to focus on small and medium-sized businesses? I mean, there's a lot of large customers out there. They can be huge accounts for you guys. Why really prioritize these smaller, places that, like you mentioned, they may have all these areas exposed and they may not pay you as much?
I think you answered your question with the question. And the reason we focus on small to mid-sized businesses, or technically the MSPs that serve small to mid-sized businesses, is because their problem is unique. At Citibank, to pick an example of a large customer, Citibank, no one has unlimited resources, but Citibank they have nearly unlimited resources. They are not going naked, if you will, for lack of budget or lack of available funds. And they don't have the problem of too many things to look at because they have enough people to look at all of them. Small to mid-sized businesses are digitally transforming. The market for technology within SMBs, the increase in the spend of small to mid-sized businesses on technology is growing at about 5 times the rate of GDP growth. That's a huge market, huge TAM. And the reason for that is whether it's your dentist, whether it's your local architect, whether it's a construction company, restaurant chain, physical therapy center, you name it, they are now becoming dependent upon technology. 9-10 years ago, your dentist could care less about technology. Today, their x-ray machine's digital. So if they're having network issues, they can't take an x-ray. Today, most root canals are done with computer-aided assistance. Most dentists won't do a root canal unless they have their systems helping them. So their phones are all digital. So what happens to a dentist if their technology drops? They can't take a phone call. They can't fill a seat. They can't clean your teeth. They can't do a root canal, which may be a good thing. And they can't take an x-ray. They can't generate revenue. They are dependent on their technology infrastructure to drive revenue. That digital transformation is impacting every single type of small to mid-sized business around the world. So the demand is massive for what we do. And the problem that we solve is only experienced in that SMB sector and the MSPs that serve it. So that's why we focus on that sector. It's really about having the right problem-solving product for a huge, massively growing market.
Mm-hmm. Is that why you also rolled out with the subscription service focus now, is just to really streamline the process to get these businesses onboarded?
Yeah, I think the way we try to make it very easy for our partners, our customers, to work with us. When you think about what makes a company great, solving a big problem, really, really big problem, with a great solution. And then making it very easy for the people who have that problem to find you, to conduct business with you, and to work with you over the long term. Right? Get rid of friction. Friction is the enemy of successful organizations. So that's why we license the technology the way that we do it, why we develop this all-in-one subscription called Kaseya 365. And quite frankly, that's why we continue to always try to make the way we do business easy, friendly. It doesn't mean we're not looking to make a profit. We're a very, very financially successful organization. And that financial success allows us to invest to continue to make our products and services the best that our customers enjoy, but we have to make it easy to do business with us. And a lot of organizations, they might get the product right, They don't get the go-to-market and the customer success and the ease of doing business right, or vice versa. We try to get both. We try to innovate not only in having the best products, but having the best, easiest way to do business.
It makes sense. Might as well make it as simple as possible to work with people if they'll just want to continue and word of mouth. So when you guys got involved with recently you decided to get involved with the Miami Heat and have the naming rights there. Can you just share, Fred, a little bit how that opportunity came up and like why is the company in the position you're in now? Like why did you find a lot of value in that?
Yeah. So again, like in life, it's half skill, half luck, right? Some people say you make your own luck, and I agree with that, but sometimes it doesn't hurt to be lucky. The Miami Heat, the sponsor they had before us, experienced some financial challenges, so the opportunity presented itself. And we are a Miami-based company. We have offices all over the world, but Miami's our home. Miami's our headquarters. And we saw an opportunity. It was very quick because when the FTX stuff happened, it happened really quickly. We jumped on it. Our chief marketing officer, Mike Sanders, and others were like this. They presented the opportunity to me. And the first thing I said is, why would we do that? Mm-hmm. And then as Mike and others went through it, I was like, how do we not do that? Here's the reason. It's really simple. There's two primary reasons. The first and most important is our customers. So the way our business works, our customers are IT and security service providers, also known as MSPs. These are the organizations around the country and around the world that are providing outsourced IT and security services to small to mid-sized businesses around the world. So your local dentist doesn't have an internal IT person. They're paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month to Millie and Joe's IT shop out of Boca Raton, Florida, that has 50 to 100 local businesses as their customers. We have about 55,000 of those around the world as our customers. Now, the most common situation is our customer is talking to their customer, and their customer knows absolutely nothing about it. So when they say we are powered by Kaseya, we want our partners, when they go to market and they say powered by Kaseya, for their end customers, the dentists, the doctors, the lawyers, say, oh, wow, I know Kaseya. I've heard of them before. You must be a really, really good IT and security provider because you're using something I've heard of. It's analogous to what Intel did with the Intel Inside campaign in the 90s. Brilliant campaign. This is the early days of the PC revolution, and Intel was selling microprocessors to the PC manufacturers. And what Intel did was a direct-to-consumer branding campaign called Intel Inside. So when the average consumer went to the computer store to buy their PC, they would say, that PC has to have Intel inside for it to be good. And we want the IT and security service provider market to say, if they're powered by Kaseya, they're the best. So we have a 7-year campaign to build the brand of Kaseya so that people looking for IT and security solution providers say, if you're powered by Kaseya, we want you. And it's been incredibly successful. The second reason is we're hiring thousands and thousands of employees, most of which, or many of which, are in South Florida at our Miami headquarters. It doesn't hurt to get the best, most talented people in the world when people see your name on the stadium that your great city has. That's the second reason. And it's been really successful on both fronts.
Totally interesting to kind of hear your thoughts behind that. I mean, the awareness, for sure, there's so much more awareness around what you guys are building, and it does probably create a certain status. So, Fred, just the last question that I have, at this point in your life and your career, and also with the company, like, what do you aspire to accomplish now? Like, what do you aspire from a personal level as well as a professional level to do that you haven't done yet?
So I think professionally, I love this company. I love it. I love what we do. I love our employees. I love our partners. I love what we're doing in the community. There's a lot of ways of changing the world and doing good. We employ 5,000 now. Hopefully by the end of the decade, we'll employ between 12 to 15,000. Every Kaseya partner, every MSP powered by Kaseya is 25 to 30% more profitable than those who are not.
Wow.
Those are our customers. So our customers, we're changing their businesses and their lives, and that's super cool. I think this company is just scratching the surface of where we can be. I think we should be one of the 5 to 7 most valuable pure software companies on the planet by the end of this decade. Our addressable market's huge. We have a great customer base. We have a great execution strategy, great people. We should be able to accomplish that. And it's been the great joy of my professional career to be doing it. Personally, I just want to make a difference. I think Kaseya is a nice vehicle to help do that. I think that there's a lot of macro challenges that we face as a society. And I'd like to be a part of helping solve some of those. As I say, try to make it a little bit better than what we got. That's pretty much it. Doing that and having a great time while doing it. And always trying to enjoy every moment that we have. Sometimes it's easy to focus on the outcome and not enjoy the journey. And that's something that I think is really important for those of us that really like to go after it and try to make difference and make change. Sometimes we lose sight of not just the outcome, but the journey. And that's something that I constantly am told. I don't know how well I do it, but that's something I'd like to stress.
That sounds great. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I think there's a lot people can learn from the journey you've had and that you continue to have. I'm definitely excited for the next stages for the company overall. I mean, with the Miami Heat naming now and just, the new product rollouts you have, I think there's just a lot of exciting things you're building. So appreciate it.
Well, Ben, thanks for having me on and look forward to talking to you again sometime in the near future.